Hello, welcome. This is a psychological concept analysis of the film. My name is Bill W. My name is Paul Lavoie, and let's get right into the summary of this movie. So, James Wood and James Gardner star in this movie, and it's about the origin of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, James Wood's character, William Wilson, he's a veteran of the First World War. He gets home from the war, and he has a drinking problem. He's very financially and personally invested in the stock market, and it inevitably crashes in 1929. So his marriage, his personal life are all just torn to shreds. But by this time, he meets this guy, Dr. Bob Smith, who is also a struggling alcoholic. They find some sort of power in communicating together, um, and they form the origin for the organization Alcoholics Anonymous and just countless other 12-step programs. So let's get right into the scene summaries and concept descriptions. So like we said, Bill Wilson is experiencing and displaying inferiority complex. An inferiority complex is basically a theory developed by the psychoanalysis Alfred Adler, and that refers to a person's feelings that they lack the worth and don't measure up to the standards of others or society standards. So this condition, according to Alder, is actually developed in earlier childhood during social learning stages of life. Social maladjustment with peers and in groups are usually the root causes for the inferiority complex. So, strange enough, an inferiority complex is an internal disorder keeping individuals unaware that they even struggle with it. So there's like this paradoxical issue with an inferiority complex. Um, it manifests as people may display signs of like the superiority. They're always trying, and maybe even there's a bit of success due to their efforts, but the problem is internally they feel like they are not enough. So this will lead us into the next scene. So Bill Wilson has this like old friend Ebby, and he's also an alcoholic and also a World War One veteran. Ebby shows up um, in kind of like the height of Bill Wilson's drinking issues. His alcoholism has brought him to stages of DT, definitely depression, but just pretty much a constant drunken state. Um, and Ebby's got this new outlook on life, and Bill Wilson starts to pour drinks, and Ebby refuses, and Bill's confused, and Ebby starts to explain how he's joined this new organization called the Oxford Group, where they talk about their alcoholism, they pray, and they find others that are struggling or like they were struggling, and show them the answer to this problem. Right, so this whole idea of AA is kind of rooted in this Oxford group, and this story that Ebby brings to him. So Bill kind of scoffs at this idea. He becomes a little angry. He's tried all these outlets through ministry and priests and to get sober, and he claims that he's just not buying into the way that these men sell these ideas of religion. So Bill is demonstrating a defense mechanism called rationalization. All right, so in this scene, we have Bill just throwing him back. And all right, so it's important to see here that like all people have defense mechanisms. So it's the reliance on one for too many situations that will manifest into this negative thing in your life. Um, so we just got to understand that it's the ego's response to restore balance between the id and the superego. So, not all people realize the effect of a certain defense mechanism can have on their life. Overuse of one defense mechanism can lead to just an inability to control your feelings and emotions, and you can actually become this defense mechanism. You can become such a a rationalization kind of person. You can project onto people. There's all kinds of different defense mechanisms that can become a negative thing in your life. There's plenty of things we can do to treat defense mechanisms and obsessions with defense mechanisms. We can go to certain talk therapies that's shown to be super effective. We can do what you can to reduce the stress in your life. So we can pray, we can meditate, we can make sure that we're taking part in daily physical activity, that we're eating right, that we learn how to avoid situations that are going to cause us major negative stress in our lives. And there's also some stress therapy. So big three to get for free is uh, physical activity, meditation, and eat right. So those three things can help you combat overuse of defense mechanisms. Remember, it's just to calm down the anxiety. That's what's happening in your body. All right, so in this scene, we have Bill just throwing him back, and the fine bottles of wine. He's are flowing. He's got a great deal of success at this point, and what we're actually witnessing is the neurotransmitters receiving these cues of alcohol in the brain. We're going to go into um, a little bit of neurotransmission and how alcohol affects it short term and long term. So Bill's alcohol consumption is interacting with Bill's neurotransmitter reward system. And what happens in that process is an activated neuron sends a chemical signaling molecules called neurotransmitters through the neural circuit, which bind to specific molecules called the receptors. So, depending on the circuit involved, the binding of these neurotransmitters may cause excitatory or inhibitory signals to be passed further along the circuit. So, what happens when we have the side effects of alcohol affecting our neurotransmission? So, we can present with depression, slurred speech, slowed reaction time, confusion, and sometimes you just can't remember anything. And these are all as a result of decreased excitatory neurotransmissions. So, when you increase inhibitory neurotransmissions, these are the result of the GABA receptor, specifically the subreceptor GABA A. So long-term use of alcohol has the opposite result. So we can look back at some evidence, and we see that the brain attempts to restore the equilibrium after long-term alcohol consumption. So, an example, although short-term alcohol consumption may increase GABA A receptor function, prolonged drinking has the opposite effect. What I really would like you to take from this slide is that when we engage in long-term alcohol use, the body, the equilibrium is trying to balance itself at all times. So when we have a bunch of alcohol use, the inhibitory and excitation are trying to balance off. So what happens when you take the alcohol away? Well, the excitation is super heavy because it's been overcompensated. So what happens when this is present? You can come into things like seizures and delirium tremors, which nobody wants to go through that. So when we're in this stage of overcompensated excitation, that's when you probably need to see a medical professional because it is a medical emergency.